Welcome back to Project Seawolf. Back at the boat. Last time we did 3 through holes. This one, and one on the other side. And let's see how they turned out. This used to be the sink drain in the head. And let's see. Yeah! Oh, not a clean one, but the peel ply came off. Looks like it did pretty good. Definitely gonna have to come back and grind this out on the outside and do another repair on the outside, but looks like it's good from this side. And again, just need to come around the outside and do an outside repair, especially on this one because this one's right up against the bulkhead and I couldn't get like the full circle out of it, the full circle repair. Definitely need to go in there. This one's below the water line, so definitely need to make sure that one's good. And the one on this side is way up there. It was a vent for the black water out, so I'm gonna have to do that from the top of the deck. Careful now, because my lifelines don't really do anything anymore because the bowsprit and the pulpit are up. Nice, nice. Don't really have to do a really hardy repair on the outside of this one, but I mean, again, I want it to last 50 years, so I'll make it as nice as I can. So today's kind of a big day. I want to cut open the bow and remove all the rotten coring. It's been super dry for the past few days, super hot, and it's cooled down a little bit, which is good because I'm going to be working pretty hard out here. Definitely going to get sunburned. But yeah, that coring inside there needs to go. I'm gonna have to tap it out. I don't want to use all of my fiberglass, but yeah, I'm not gonna put balsa back in there. I'm gonna make it solid fiberglass if I can. Need to figure out how the cleats are attached under here, and there's a couple of fittings there. One of which is just a cap that they put over an old fitting. So I'm gonna be removing all of that and then cutting open my deck. Again, we did a little deck repair back here and that turned out really well. But up forward, it's a big deal because if you think about it, the bobstay is, or the bowsprit is kind of your biggest chain plate, and it's a really big deal because if you lose your forestay, usually your mast comes down. And so that just needs to, the forward part of the deck just needs to be bomb-proof before I put the bowsprit back on. And right now I know that the core in there is just peanut butter. So yeah, let's get to work tearing it apart. Okay, upon inspecting the structure of the bow, it is apparent that the coring is not throughout the whole area. It stops here along this ridge, and there's another ridge on this side. Right here. So that's where I would expect coring to be in the deck. I know that hole is, the coring all around in there is completely rotted. This looks rotted. That looks pretty bad too. So back to at least here. Oh yeah, I remember I dug out this hole before, and the coring was pretty bad in there. So there's that. Here are the cleats. When I take out the cleats, I'll know how the coring is in the bolt holes there. If it looks good, I might not cut out that far, but I definitely need to do everything forward of here. Yeah, there's a lot of rot in there too, in that old hole that they didn't use anymore. Probably for a chain or something. All right, yeah, just pretty much as bad as I thought it was gonna be. Now all this crap, I don't know what it's from. But if I just take a flat blade on my oscillating tool, I could just, I think I'll do that while the space is clear of all these fittings. Well, I came up here with the wrenches, but I guess I need a flathead for these. Geez. New plan, because flathead is not going to work. flathead is not going to work. I'm gonna try to lift up the fitting and break the sealant that way. Okay, I did some hammering on the inside and was able to get the piece of wood off. The wood itself is in good shape, so you know, after cleaning it up, it might just go back on. And upon inspecting where it came out, you can see that there's some deck rot in there and it sounds rotten. That sounds solid. That sounds hollow. Oof. Okay. Oh my goodness. Okay. Now it's just a matter of this little thing. And then we're in business and we can start tapping out the coring and then filling it. This one is kind of an issue to unscrew from the inside because of the top things. I had to reach through this hole with a screwdriver, hold this down, and then from the other side use an adjustable wrench to get it out. But it is out now, thank goodness. And then whatever this is, it seems like every time they had a problem, they just capped it and forgot about it. Yeah, that's not gonna happen in the future, taking this cap out. Might be handy for another project though. All right, and now I can clean up the duct tape. All right, now comes the exciting part. Let me get my Sharpie. All right, the deck is clean. There's no fittings on it anymore. Let's see, how does the coring look up here where the bowsprit was attached? Yeah, just powder in there. Yep, just powder in there. Oh man, okay. Now I don't need to go all the way to the edge. The coring is only about where the where this traction is. So I might just use this line as a guide and just kind of go in here, because I can use like a brush or something to get all the coring out from the edges. I don't need to go all the way to the deck seam, which I don't want to mess with. The goal is to replace all the balsa with fiberglass and thickened epoxy, but not all thickened epoxy because it needs to be somewhat flexible to take the loads from the mast and the anchor and all the other things that you do with the bow strength. I guess what that leaves is how far back I need to go, and honestly I think I could do with a straight line from about here, straight line out here and out here, and then cut out a triangle here. Yeah, you can actually see the edge of the coring here. So this deck fitting was installed right on the border of the coring and the deck seam. So this is all fiberglass on this side and this is cord. And yeah, that coring is rotten right there along the edge. And that edge is right on the traction. Oh, you know, following my gut was actually a good thing. Yeah, I think perhaps a line like that, if this is rotten out. But everything in this triangle is coming up, probably about there. Yeah, so I'll make a point here on the deck straight out, because this is rotten here. Okay, that looks pretty good. So really it's going to be like a diamond shape that I cut out. Okay, now I'm wondering if it's going to be possible to just peel off this shell, the fiberglass shell. All right, the shell of the deck is much more adhered to the balsa coring as I thought. So yeah, just gonna dig out the coring as much as possible. I made a center cut all the way down through the middle, so that will help panel out some things better. These big areas are going to be difficult without making another cut. Speaking of which, I might as well just cut straight from there, cut straight from there, and then it'll link up with that, so that might work out. I want to thank my sponsors. Thank you to everybody on the Patreon, everybody liking and subscribing, commenting. You guys are helping out the channel so much. Over the past couple months, the channel has really grown, and it's thanks to you guys, so thank you so much. All right, we're just getting a sneak peek at what's going on with the coring. So yeah, this coring right here looks okay, but you can see where the rot would have been is just right in here, so that's good. There's about an inch to a half inch of healthy coring that I'm taking out this way that I'm going to replace with fiberglass. Okay. Oh, all right, that's the first panel I've been able to remove. Yeah, so the plan is to clean this up, all the nasty coring, all the coring in general off of all this fiberglass, which is just going to take some grinding once I have everything off, and then fill all this with fiberglass, fresh fiberglass, and thickened epoxy, and then put a big glob of thickened epoxy across the whole thing and squish these back down onto it, and yeah, wet these as well, and so it should be just fresh fiberglass on this old fiberglass, and the fresh fiberglass is just making up the coring now. So holy cow. Okay, and all these cracks I'll fill in with thickened epoxy, and then I'll repaint the deck at some point soon. So I mean, the important thing is to get all of this crap out. All the, I mean, it's still dripping. It's somehow it's still wet. So yeah, it's gonna be quite the vacuum job on the inside of the boat.
Holy smoly, yeah, man.
Yeah, this stuff is still wet, and God knows when.
Yeah. What are you gonna do? Are you gonna redo it with balsa, or are you gonna shoot foam?
I'm gonna do it all fiberglass. And I might work in some like thin sheets of foam, but it's mostly gonna be fiberglass. I think, and thinking epoxy, but mostly fiberglass.
Yeah, because that's where your windlass goes, yeah?
Yeah, and the bowsprit, which is the biggest chain plate in the boat.
Man, I'm in the exact same place you are on my boat. Yes.
Oh wait, did I? Oh, I got that piece off. Oh, I did. Okay. Yeah.
Oh, you taking it all the way up then, yeah?
Yeah, because it's all done underneath where the bowsprit was.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Well, you know, I've seen a whole bunch of different ways they do it, but yeah.
The deck.
All right, so you're just gonna chip the balsa off the back of it, soak it off or chip it off or something.
Yeah.
Cool.
And then put the shell back on, and then so I don't have.
Yeah,
it
man.
Saves me on fiberglass for one.
Right.
And for two, I know where all the holes were. And if I don't want the holes, I'll just ferret out. Yeah, that was my guitar friend Rick. Stopped by again. It's always nice to pitch my ideas with what I want to do with the boat and what I'm going to do with all this coring to somebody who's actually like lived the life and spent years living aboard on their boat in the Puget Sound, because you can tell when it's a dumb idea, because they're just like, oh, I don't know about that, or like, oh, hell yeah, man, I wish I'm in the same boat. So that's what he said. He said he's got a lot of the same issue with the bow of his boat, and that I'm doing good. So that's good to hear. Very reassuring. Thank goodness. Wow. Yeah, the coring's in pretty bad shape under here, but that's not very surprising. It was the bowsprit, one of the wettest pieces of hardware on the boat. So the skin is coming off relatively easy, probably because there's no good balsa left. Ah, nice. Oh, and the fiberglass looks good too. So once I clean all this off, I can put the fiberglass skin back on and it should be good. Oh, I'm gonna have to come up with something heavy to put here. Maybe the backing plate of the bowsprit to keep it pressed down. Look at this. Look at this. That's water coming up. Wow. Yeah, it's just hot water. Oh my gosh. Oh, a little interesting. So all of the coring that was along in here was soaking wet and came out just from brushing it, basically. However, this stuff I think is impregnated with epoxy. I know it doesn't go very far though, because here in this hole you can see that there's some rotted core in there, and same with the smaller holes up here. So I think there are some areas where they used epoxy. There was a middle line here that was an epoxy line, but everything else is, there must be like a grid system to maybe keep the rot localized on the bow, because this epoxy line was like a wall, and so you'd expect the rot to stay on one side or the other, like they expected it to rot. But not so with my build. I am going to tear out all of this and make it never rot again. Ooh. Okay. Nice. man. Look at the core rot. Oh my goodness. All the wood is like separated and like pitted. And that was what was holding my mast on. Incredible. And that's all the skin. Amazing. All right, look at that. There's just water coming up in out of the coring, and this is pretty far away from any holes. This is the nearest hole, or the screw hole, but there's a line of epoxy here that would have prevented the rot. So really all this rot's coming from this hole that they just capped over with an aluminum plate. Oh, incredible. So without the decking, this is what, without the top shell, this is what it looks like. And so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna just take my oscillating tool and clean off this, and then I'm gonna leave it in the sun for a day and let it dry out completely. And then I'm gonna come back on Monday and grind it and lay new fiberglass. But you guys don't have to wait that long, because it's just gonna happen in the editing. So all right, my boat neighbor and friend and musician Rick came over, and we knocked out the rest of the coring on the fiberglass on the deck. So yeah, this is a nice layer of fiberglass here. I'm just going to lay fiberglass across, seal up these holes, and ferret out with thickened epoxy, and then put the shell back on, so I don't have to redo the whole deck. But yeah, we made it all the way up to these bits, which are all epoxy, and this is all epoxy here. So it's just going to take some cleaning along the edge, and yeah. Oh, there's some writing here. I don't know what it says. I don't know if this boat has been recorded since it was built, but that would be interesting if it was something written from the 1960s. Interesting. All right, it has been a couple of hot, dry summer days, and we are back. Let's see. Yeah, I think the dampness is gone, so that's good. One thing I forgot to do when I did this was create a bevel. So today we're going to bevel out the edges so that there's an edge for the fiberglass to grip to. It also helps me see what's going on with the coring around the repair, so that'll be a good opportunity. And then I also have to repair or clean off the fiberglass shell so that I can put it back on. So here's the fiberglass shell. All this should be pretty dried out now because I left it out in the sun this whole time. And yeah, just gonna clean off the rest of the balsa from these pieces, and then I'll be ready to go on top of the fiberglass today that we put down. Because we're gonna be pouring a lot of epoxy on there, I don't want any of the balsa to get mixed up in anything that drips down, so we're cleaning out this rat's nest of balsa that fell down in here while we were taking the balsa off of the deck. Well, the forecast called for 76 degrees Fahrenheit, and it definitely feels more like 80 right now. Yeah, it's supposed to be sunny all week for the next week and a half, so that makes me feel pretty good about the repair staying nice over the next week and dry. I think I'm gonna wait until it cools down this evening to refiberglass the foredeck, but it's gonna take me probably all day to get all that prepared, all yeah, beveled out and taped up and all that. It's probably gonna take me until it's cooler out anyway, and it'll be a nice way to wind down the day. Definitely started with the the one with the most balsa. It looked like they tried to inject epoxy on this one somehow. It just made the rotten balsa stick more to it, so bleh. All right, now it's shady and a little bit cooler on the boat. Still about 75, 80 degrees out, but at least I'm not in the sun anymore. I drank everything I have as I went to the store and bought a few more liters of like lemonade and stuff. I have drawn out where I want the bevel. It's about 3 inches in. Here it's about a ½ inch out, because up here is where we kind of already started making the bevel up here. And then, yeah, this is going to be beveled out too, 3 inches up, and ½ inch along here again, and yeah, so I'm going to cut the skin off, and then I'm going to bevel down the coring, and yeah, I hope that works out okay. All right, some pretty good progress on cleaning up this area. Nice and beveled here so far. Again, I'm not looking to recore the entire boat, so I'm just gonna have to deal with the balsa there. But yeah, still need to bevel on here. I took another strip off so that I could bevel it, and then that's gonna save me a lot of fiberglass, using the top shell of the fiberglass over the top. Some areas that I could use Deviney self foam could be areas back here where I know I'm not going to use any, where I know I'm not going to put any fittings, deck fittings. Right now we're at the stage where we're just kind of cleaning it up, beveling it out, and then we'll be ready to put on the fiberglass. Alright, while I've been creating the bevel, I've noticed an area that does not look too hot. It seems rotten. Yeah, that's no bueno. So oh man, it's okay. Oof. Okay, that one. Maybe it's normal. Yeah, okay. Maybe it's normal. It's just really not great. So yeah, I'll probably fill this with thickened epoxy and yeah, lay fiberglass on that way. You know, it's kind of nice that things are a little uneven. I find an organic edge rather than a factory edge hold better, especially for adhesive type stuff. So
you know, a little messy, I think is a good thing. Okay, I'm happy with that. Everything's all beveled out and ready. I just need to finish cleaning up the skins that's gonna go on top and tape the holes on the other side. All right, I'm pretty happy with the way these turned out. The beautiful sunset in the bay with the mountain and all the boats out anchored. Oh man, I can't wait to be out there with them. For today, we are going to make a big repair. Yay. Spread on some thickened epoxy to really fill in all the cracks and crevices and make the surface prepped for the fiberglass, which will then go on in alternating sheets of chop strand and biaxial rubbing. And then it'll be topped off with these, with another spread of thickened epoxy to fill in the cracks. Oh man, so excited. Alright, it's now 10:30 at night. Everything is taped up. The air is cool enough. And it is ready to mix the thickened epoxy to pour over the outside of the bottom to plug up the holes so that like the thinned epoxy with the fiberglass doesn't just leak through. It also helps to fill all the crevices, and I'm going to use it kind of like a fairing compound where there's some pockets of sanded material. So really just nice fairing compound, going to create a nice adhesive layer for the fiberglass to stick to. No! God dang it. Alright, this time I'm going to do something a little bit different, and because it's 2-to-1, I know if I use a cup of this and half a cup of that, I'm going to have the right mixture. So I'm going to just pour a cup instead of pumping it. God. That saves me a lot of pumping work. So she said 1.5 cups. There we go. Guaranteed there's going to be bugs all over this epoxy. There's bugs everywhere where the light is touching. And guess what? I'm going to turn on the light outside to see what I'm doing. So now I'm going to be making a ton of epoxy tonight, so this is by no means the last bucket I'm going to make, but this is the one that's going to kind of be the filler for the for all the holes up front. So that's what we're doing right now. Alright, I'm going to use the last of this cabousel. Thank you, Sailing Mig. You have become a part of the boat. Sailing Mig is in Fiji. I think he's going to visit home for a little bit, but he's on circumnavigation doing a very similar build to mine. So, you know, it's very reassuring. This stuff is so crazy light. It just blows around. Should not have a fan going right now. Now I want this layer of thickened epoxy to be really thick because I don't want it to be leaking into the anchor locker. I want it to stay up on there, and by the time I get to the fiberglassing, it'll be a little bit like half baked. So that'll add a nice adhesive layer for the fiberglass to stick to, which you know, it's pretty essential that this first fiberglass layer sticks really well to the bottom layer of the shell of fiberglass. Thank you, Meg. Yeah, this is a nice little container. Maybe I'll use it to do some mixing later. There's bugs everywhere. Oh my god. Let's get started.
All right, maybe I should work from the front back. All right, it's starting to thicken up, or at least there's nuggets now, so. Yeah, this stuff is cooked. Shoot. Oh no, it cooked too fast. I didn't get it out soon enough. Amazing. Well, that sucks. Look, a nugget. What? Never seen that before. Ah, dang. Okay, I'm back with another batch. All right, cook time has changed. Noted. So, did not expect the cook time to change this much, but I guess it was a hot day. Just gonna really just make sure I get it all down. Cover the holes that I really want to. Yeah. There's a rock of thickened epoxy there. It's already set. I can't move it. Shoot. Can I? Nope. It's already set up. Oh my gosh. Okay. Sure. Wow. Okay, well, all the holes are covered, which means the bow, or the foredeck is sealed now, which is awesome. Probably hasn't been sealed since it was made, so that's pretty cool. All right, I think that's the best I could do. The stuff in the container is pretty much set up. Jeez, that was fast. I made this and ran out here because of how fast the last one set up. Looks like we don't have to wait very long to start the epoxy. In fact, we should probably do it as soon as possible, because I really want to take advantage of how sticky this is still. Okay, well, I'm fairly certain that all these holes are sealed up now. All right, I've moved the party outside. Here is the huge bolts of fiberglass, shop strand, biaxial. Got my gloves, epoxy, thickened epoxy, mixing station, and now we're gonna start laying the fiberglass. Oh man, it's probably about 11 p.m. so it's gonna be a late night. All right, I think the best strategy is, for right now, is going to be just laying the fiberglass mat on and then cutting it. I just don't want any wrinkles in here. Okay, that worked out pretty well, actually. Surprised. All of this is gonna turn into soup when I pour the epoxy on. It's happening. None of the fiberglass is gonna get wasted. I'm gonna use all the trimmings for other projects, so don't worry about the waste. I got it covered. Let's get rid of, let's detach this mat from the bolt so that I can see what I'm doing, at least. The thickened epoxy is already super set up, unfortunately. You know, it might be smart to dry fit. I mean, it would have been smart to dry fit this mat, but to dry fit the biaxial before I put it on, because the biaxial is way more expensive than this stuff is. So I would like to minimize the waste of especially the biaxial. And then I can use the biaxial cut that I make to as a template for other cuts, because I'm going to be making probably at least 4 layers. It's kind of sketchy being like 20 feet up in the air doing this at night, but hey, at least I'm not getting burned by the sun right now. let's do the biaxial, and let's make a template out of the biaxial. So I don't want to drip sweat into there, but all right, I now have the biaxial template that I will use to make, let's see, needs like 3 or 4 more layers to match the balsa core. So maybe 3 more layers. Chop strand, biaxial, chop strand, biaxial, chop strand. We got 1 chop strand. This biaxial, it's about a 1/2 inch depth. 4 more on top of this. Okay, so 2 more biaxial, 2 more chop strand. Let's go cut them in the cockpit. All right, it's now midnight, and I'm just gonna start laying the fiberglass and mixing up the epoxy. I assume it's gonna take probably at least 3 cups of epoxy each time. So 2 cups of resin, 1 cup of hardener. So I brought out my other gallon of epoxy. If you want to help out the channel and help me get some more epoxy, I've got the Patreon in the description. It would really help out. Thank you. Because this is an expensive job, but much better than having that soggy balsa in there. Oh my gosh. This has got to be the biggest epoxy job I ever do. Short of building a boat, I guess. And there we go. That looks pretty good. Let's do a drizzle. Oh my goodness, yeah, it's gonna take a lot of epoxy for this job. Oh man, yeah, it's gonna be a lot of epoxy. If that was 2 cups of resin, maybe I need 3 cups of resin and 2.5 of hardener. Oof, yeah, so I guess I have to do 2 cups of resin, 1 cup of hardener each time, which, you know, makes sense. All right, let's see how much is left in this bottle of resin. Oh, it looks like it's gonna be about 2 cups. Come on, get to 3 cups so I don't have to open the other one. Nah, not close, not even close. When it's fully saturated, the chop strand turns translucent. So there's certain areas that are translucent already, but still most of it needs a little extra. I'm gonna roll between layers, so I'm gonna roll this out. Kind of squishing the epoxy around, so it's making it more efficient in some places. Well, the template was a little imperfect. I might need to cut the edges, trim the edges. Do a dry roll because the epoxy is still wet underneath, so I just want to roll it on dry first. Unfortunately, there's epoxy all over these strips, so I won't be able to use them for other things. All right, the next chop strand layer, I'm gonna make sure it just fits in the bowl, in the shape, because I really don't need a whole lot more up top, because we're gonna be putting that shell back on, and the shell overlaps the sides. You know, this might actually turn out well. I might need to give it a couple days to set and then trim this edge and sand this edge to be able to fit the shell back on. That'll give me some time to recover from this as well. So I don't have to like try and put thickened epoxy those shells back down. All right, let's start from the front and move to the back. Yeah, it's already soaked from the chop strand layer underneath, so maybe I will have enough epoxy for this job. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna have to come back in a couple days and sand the edges to get the shell to fit again. The amount of epoxy I'm using is worth more than what's in my bank account right now. That's crazy. Shoot. All right, that's soaked. Yeah, definitely need to trim this back a little bit. Yeah, it's starting to soak through the mat. Some of it, some of the stuff that I'm trimming, I'll put back onto certain areas that I want to thicken up a little bit. Just to help get us there faster. And that'd be the center, because there's an angle to the deck around the center. I think that would help. I was a painting major in undergrad, so you know, I majored in making messes, I guess. Not politics. Making a mess. Now, fingers crossed, this chop strand layer is going to retain enough epoxy that we don't have to worry so much about it when we put on the next biaxle. Now, I'm by no means saying this is the way you should do your bow. This is kind of, I mean, a lot of this stuff on this channel is just like an experiment. This is just what I feel like is the best solution for bow rot. Oh yeah, there's some big bubbles. I gotta roll. This layer is well saturated, so the next layer of biaxle probably not going to take much epoxy to finish that off. Still haven't come up with a good system of doing the initial lay down. Oh, this is the one that I was planning on doing earlier in the build, because it's slightly smaller, and I wanted to put the small pieces farther down so that they act as filler more than finishing out the shape. Boy howdy, it's a lot of material. Well, where I stepped totally soaked through with epoxy. Yeah, this layer is not going to need much more, I don't think. You know, I found this rolling it, the unwetted surface of the biaxial roving actually is better than rolling the chop strand because the chop strand wants to get picked up with the roller because it's so adhesive. Whereas with this, the biaxial, it just, with this clean side, it doesn't stick to the roller, and I can apply a ton of pressure and push the epoxy through to this layer of biaxial. Oh my gosh, quite the ball of hair from this mat. Trim where I don't think we need any more altitude, any more substance, really. Let's do this. How are the babies, you ask? Nobody asked, but I will tell you anyway, because I made them, or I helped make them. The babies are good. Calvin is sitting like a champ. He's gonna be walking soon too. He's obsessed with standing. So yeah, he's a rock star. Lauren and Calvin are crawling pretty good. Like army crawling, commando crawling, not really without purpose though. Like you have to put something out in front of them, like an empty bottle or something. That's what I used last time. Yeah, the babies are doing great, adorable as hell. Thanks for asking. And I'm just gonna spread it around with the brush, which seems to be the best method of doing that. Once it's wet, roll it out. I'll try rolling it out without the biaxial, but again, like rolling it out with the biaxial is pretty great. I like that. So this whole project probably took about a gallon of epoxy. I don't know how many yards of fiberglass, but I have those two huge bolts that I got. I don't know, I think those bolts were like $60 to $100 each. Not too bad. And those bolts are still, I could do this probably 2 more times with those bolts. So really not much fiberglass cost, it's just the epoxy cost that's painful. For those of you who are new, when we had the kids in November, I quit my office job so that I could be with them full time. My wife is finishing up her last year of rotations, and then starting 1 year from now, she'll be in residency. Hopefully we're on the West Coast so I can continue working on the boat, no problem. But if we end up in Maine or something, which we could, it might get a little interesting. If I'm in California or Oregon, it'll be easy for me to come up and work on the boat for like a week straight or whatever and launch it hopefully that summer. If we end up in Maine, either I get a lot of support and I'm able to launch the boat by next summer and sail it to the East Coast, which would be awesome, or I'm gonna have to save up enough episodes to cover the hiatuses that I take between flying back here in Washington. You know, just some complexities. As far as the circumnavigation goes, I want the kids to be at least 10 years old before I leave, so that would be 2033. But in the meantime, when this boat is done, or at least saleable again, we'll be cruising in the San Juans a lot. We'll be cruising the Puget Sound a lot. Probably do 1 or 2 trips to Alaska and back. Hopefully we can do the North Pacific Gyre. I'd really like to sail to Japan. I think that is quite the achievement. Definitely doable for me before circumnavigation, and honestly, that would make for a really good practice run. Being out in the ocean, crossing the Pacific to Japan, stopping in Hawaii on the way. That would probably be a good test to see if I've really got what it takes. Definitely want to do it on this boat and really put it through its paces. Probably be the summer of 2030 or 2031. Now, before I had kids, I wanted to leave on the circumnavigation in 2026, which is about right for launching this boat. And if I was still working at my old job, I'd probably have enough to cover the costs of the equipment by then. That is a tiny tack, a tiny, tiny nail. There's a bunch of them. Are they from my brush? What the hell? Did the epoxy dissolve the adhesive that keeps the nails in? And now I'm just dropping tiny nails everywhere? I don't want those in there because they'll rust and expand the fiberglass. Ooh, that's bad. Ooh, that's real bad. Oh my gosh. Well, okay, well, good thing I noticed that and got them out. Jeez, three tiny little nails. What the hell? After this, one more layer. It sticks down pretty good. Okay. Now roll the epoxy out. Man, I am covered in epoxy. My pants, my shoes, my arms, my hands. But hey, I might leave the boat having achieved something today. And that's kind of priceless, honestly. I'm just gonna give a generous pour on the edges, especially. Because the center seems to be well saturated from the layer below. Definitely gonna need to come back, sand back what I've done to the edge, because otherwise the shell won't fit on right, and I want the shell to be pretty much seamless. All right, that looks pretty good. It's well saturated, so I'm just gonna roll this out. And there's so much extra epoxy. You know, I might just put some strips down the middle, because I can tell there's going to be some areas where I need a lot of thickened epoxy to get up to where the shell is. And you know, I have a lot of already kind of epoxied strips that I could use. I could basically probably just roll these on. There's going to be more epoxy to come to put on the shell, so not too worried. What a mess. I mean, it's epoxy, so what are you gonna do? All right, well, there you have it. A solid fiberglass deck so far. On Thursday, I'll come back and do that, but through the power of editing, you won't have to wait that long. It's 1:45 in the morning, and I gotta get home because I got the kids all day tomorrow, and then after that, we'll be back and we'll finish this off. All right, it has now been a couple of days. Let's check out and see how it looks. All right, wow. Okay, yeah, so before I put on the thickened epoxy, I'm gonna mix up some, or gonna sand it so that it has something to grip to, for sure. And then test fit all these panels to make sure it works. I'm gonna have to go along this edge and sand it down a little bit so that the shell fits on perfect. The shell itself has some thickness to it, so it doesn't necessarily need to all be level with the deck, but I want to make sure that this is thick enough for the shell before I put it on. Alright, just kind of putting together the puzzle now. It's become apparent that I should probably build up the center a little bit more. So maybe a couple layers of chopped strand before I put down the thickened epoxy. If you look underneath the here, you can see there's quite the gap in the middle, and that's going to persist throughout the boat, or throughout the foredeck. So yeah, a layer or two of chopped strand in the center will help bring up the center so that water washes off either side. It's also become apparent that the thickened epoxy is going to have to be really globbed on and definitely used as as kind of like a fairing compound, so that I can get into the cracks here, especially, you know, along the edges of the pieces. So it's not perfect. There's definitely ways I could have done it better, but I done it. So, and now I don't have a balsa core in the bow of my boat. All right, here's where I'm at with this. So I'm pretty much flush with where I want to be. Yeah, the deck is flush with itself now. There's a lot of pockets, and especially out here in the center, you can see along the edge here, there's a little bit, it's a little bit short of where it needs to be. Right here it's pretty flat, right here it's pretty thick. So what I'm probably gonna end up doing is I'm gonna lay another layer of chop strand, which will help fill the space here a little bit, and bring the center up more. And then I'm gonna coat the bottoms of these pieces with thickened epoxy and stick them on over the chop strand. The chop strand will make a nice adhesion layer for the hardened fiberglass underneath. So I think it should turn out pretty well. When I put the chop strand as well, when chop strand has resin in it, it kind of dissolves and behaves more like a liquid, like a goo. And so I'll be able to fill a lot of areas with that as well while I'm putting it on. Plus I'll be pushing it down in there, and I'm gonna pour a little bit of resin over some areas that I think might have like a little bubble or pocket. That will fill those little areas as well. Overall, pretty happy with it. Of course, I could sand this flat, put on more layers, put on enough layers to match the deck, but you know, I'm gonna save myself some work and use this already. I mean, all this needs to be, the whole deck needs to be repainted and everything anyway, so I'm not too worried about not being perfect. As long as I get it to be flush and not lumpy, I'll be happy. Okay, I'm gonna add the epoxy, the filler in, and then we'll be placing panels down. Okay, let's start piecing the puzzle together. I did not anticipate how much it would warp. Hopefully, as this thickened epoxy hardens, it becomes more and more tacky and is able to hold the fiberglass. Okay, I've had a thought. I don't need something heavy. I could use a bunch of screws and just screw them in until they bite, and then go back and fill those screw holes later. Should work just fine, I hope. Hopefully it won't come up with the screw when I pull them out, but at least it'll hold it down, and so I won't have wasted all this epoxy. All right, I've got all the panels I want screwed down in the places that I want them. So we're gonna make one more batch of thickened epoxy, and we're gonna use it to fill some of the spaces, the cracks in between, and that'll create at least one uniform surface. So hopefully it penetrates any areas underneath that might still have some gaps. I mean, ultimately I have a solid deck under this patchwork, and it's sealed against the balsa that continuing down the deck, so we're safe. But I would like to have this to be as solid as possible, so I'm going to put thickened epoxy in here and fill all these gaps. This is all gonna have to be sanded anyway, especially because I'm gonna repaint it. So yeah, it's there are some edges, like here there's an edge. Yeah, there's some edges that I'll look forward to sanding down. Oh yeah, especially here. Yeah, but at least it'll be solid. And if I need to refair it after I sand it, like if it exposes some pockets, I'll be able to fix that too. If I'm being honest with you guys, I didn't know if this was gonna turn out or not. It was looking pretty grim for a bit there, but I think it turned out great. Once I put down the thickened epoxy, it really smoothed things out and was able to fill all the holes, and yeah, and it soaked in and underneath and all that, and sealed up the seams. And wow, I'm just gonna need to, you know, grind some edges, especially there and up on the bow down, and maybe mix up another batch of thickened epoxy and really just seal the deal. It looks great, and it has the curve that I want to shed water off the sides, so that's perfect. Yeah, turned out way better than I thought it was gonna. And I think that's gonna wrap up the episode for today. We got a lot done on this episode, total of like I think 4 days of work on this episode, and then it's probably going to take another 2 days to edit it. So really, like almost a week, if not more, on just this one episode. But hey, it was a big job. It's really cool. I really appreciate it if you guys commented, liked, subscribed, maybe even checked out the Patreon. It helps me out a ton. Thanks for watching. Sorry it was a long one. In the future, yeah, we got a lot more to do. But I'm really looking forward to it. The more I use epoxy, the more confident I get, and it'll be nice to smooth out the foredeck. All right, see you in the next one.